This is One on One. There he is, Carne Ross, the author of The Leaderless Revolution. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Is it not a fact that you are a former British diplomat?
It is a fact that I'm a former British diplomat. I resigned over the Iraq War.
2003.
I did, yeah, 10 years ago.
And the reasons that you resigned as a diplomat have a lot to do with this book and your views on the lack of leadership.
Well, it's more that I became very disillusioned with government because of my experience. I worked on Iraq, WMD and all of that.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Where were they?
Well, there were none. We thought there were some, but not enough to constitute a threat, and our governments pretended they were a threat, which they weren't. And I worked on that in great detail, so I knew that my government was lying about it, which was a profoundly disillusioning experience for me, but also was the trigger for this journey that's recounted in the book about what would work as a method of running the world, what would work as a method of arbitrating our affairs together, because even representative government, as currently constituted, was failing in many different respects. So the book is that exploration to a different kind of politics.
What would that look like?
Well, it's very people-centered. It's about people taking action themselves, negotiating with each other peacefully, inclusively, to actually do things, to affect the things that they care about most, rather than asking other people or asking governments to do it for them.
Okay, devil's advocate. Someone would say, okay, well, we've had some of that here in the United States. Let's take a look at a couple of movements that are people-based. Movements like the Tea Party, movements like the Occupy movement, right? Hey, is that what Carne's talking about?
Not really, though I'm sympathetic to Occupy and am part of an Occupy effort to build a new bank, which is actually more of what I'm talking about, which is practical action to build new things rather than trying to campaign for government to do different things. And I think the weakness of both the Tea Party and indeed Occupy is that they're essentially protest movements. They are protesting the state of things now, and they're saying we need to capture Washington or get politicians to do things better, which I don't actually believe in. I think that conventional political institutions are fundamentally broken and corrupted, and that therefore we have to do things ourselves. We have to start from the bottom, building up new structures that are better.
And you've talked about very specific principles, and I believe you talk about 9 in the book. The most important principle that you talk about, you said, who's got the money, who's got the gun?
Yeah, well, that's a great little sort of phrase about analysing where power is, because I believe in a power analysis of politics. You know, who is making the decisions? Why are things like they are? One has to understand that before designing your own action to affect that thing. But that's really the analysis that, you know, starts the action. The action is much more important than the analysis. It's really a precursor to action. Who's got the money? Who's got the gun?
A couple of the other ones that really got my attention. There's so many here, but you have big picture, small deeds.
Yeah. Well, that's a sort of Gandhian idea, to put it slightly pretentiously, but change is overwhelming. How do you stop climate change? How do you improve health for people in Africa? How do you change politics in our country? What can little you possibly do? But the idea there is you need an epic goal to inspire you, something really great, something fantastic, but you need to do something every single day that is practical to get to that goal. Big picture, small steps. Change actually doesn't happen on an epic level. Nobody can change things in that way, but collectively we can change things through these small steps.
So it's interesting, if I were to try to offer an analogy, someone says, wow, I know this sounds incredibly simplistic after you just talked about that. Someone says, I want to run the marathon.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big deal if you've never run before. But every day,
yeah. Well,
you can do something smaller.
The slight analogy, the difference in that analogy is that that's small steps to build up to a big one, having the marathon.
Is this different? You're talking about something different?
I am talking about something different in the sense that, the small steps constitute the change themselves. If you act yourselves to look after, say, the vulnerable in our society, the elderly, if you go and visit an old person in an old people's home, that itself constitutes change. You're not going to globally change that problem, but you are going to change it locally and for yourself.
It's a great point. It's not simply a means to an end. It's an end in and of itself, because you're actually helping that person that day.
Yeah, and you have beautifully articulated one of the other principles, which is the means are the ends.
The means are the ends.
Yeah, I think we've become very used to a model of politics where we're told that change produces a certain outcome. Well, the book is saying you are the outcome, that actually what you need to do needs to be the outcome, the end that you seek. Gandhi believed this. You know, to show your political disaffection with the problem, you actually have to solve that problem rather than seeking to solve it. It's in a way a much more satisfying form of action. It's about real change right now in your hands.
By the way, some of the others, kill the king.
Yes. Provocatively put, deliberately. But in chess, there is only one objective, which is to kill the other person's king.
But in this country, we don't have a king.
You don't.
So
that is entirely true.
What are you talking about?
We don't have one in Britain either.
I know.
A very nice queen. What I'm talking about is keep your eye on the objective all the time. Do not be satisfied with playing around with your pawns or your bishops. The only point is the outcome. Measure your actions by the outcome. If you're working to end genocide, if you haven't actually saved one person from genocide, your action, your Twitter petition or whatever has not worked. It's really a building from a critique of the rather empty kind of campaigning often we see on the internet, celebrities, that it is action, not words, that matters.
By the way, there's so many more. I'll go through these quickly. How about refer to the cosmopolitan criteria? I'll do that real quick, and then I'm going to ask you a final question.
A very pretentious way of saying ask other people what they want rather than assuming that you know what they want. The golden rule, as it's called, which is act for others as you would be acted to yourself, is inadequate. We can actually now ask people. They are the best judges of their own circumstance.
You've been out there, obviously, communicating the themes of this book. You were on Stephen Colbert, which is how we heard about you, and we're thrilled that you came into our public television studio to do this. The reaction that you've gotten to the themes, the messages in this book have been what?
Very personal, weirdly. Extraordinary letters, which are very gratifying for any author, from people who said the book has changed their lives. Because, you know, they've seen in it a path to ventilate the frustration that they feel about politics and the state of affairs today. But it's also a very practical, doable thing. It's not kind of grand theory. And that has been very moving for me as an author. And it also, you know, tells me that change is not about, you know, grand, epic revolution. It's actually about each of us changing the own story of our lives.
You have no regrets about leaving the diplomatic corps, do you?
I am today a free man. I have no regrets.
It's good stuff. The Leaderless Revolution, how ordinary people will take power and change politics in the 21st century. Carne Ross, I want to thank you for joining us and giving us hope and giving us something that we need to focus on anywhere, not just in this country, but every country that needs to change, and that's all of us. Thank you, Carne.
I really appreciate it.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, TD Bank, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, PSE&G, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, Roche, the law firm of Gibbons PC, and by the New Jersey Education Association. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been made possible in part by New Jersey State Nurses Association.